data usually published, you can check on those industry averages, and it varies across countries. It does vary across country, right? For instance, the output of maybe pouring concrete in the UK may be different from that from, say, India. And it may be different from that for, say, a country in Africa or America. There are different figures. So you need to look at the average output within the local body and then be able to estimate that, okay, based on the average output, how long will it take me to pour so much amount of concrete? That's it's something you need to find out. But the experience is also a key factor.
Just to add, so from a contractor's perspective, you've got liquidated damages that you need to think about. If you've given someone, so if I've said to you, I'm going to build you a wall in 3 days, if I don't do it, then I've got liquidated damages that you're going to hit me with. So, you know, they kind of know how much they're going to build.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then that comes in, that's a good point, that's a good point. But that comes in more or less once you already signed the contract, because the liquidated damages doesn't help you determine your duration. He's a bit more concerned about how you come up with that duration.
Isn't that I think there's a difference here between pre-contract and post-contract. So I don't think it's pre-contract, it's estimations based on what's on any of the databases, whereas post-contract is based on tender information. So you'll have design at the point with the supplier, whereas when you're doing work breakdown structures to a sequence, and then pull out of that is, you know, you can do your estimations based on talking to suppliers if you want to, or you can wait to tender to
I mean, yes. The liquidated damages only come in when a project, if you're unable to meet your deadline. But it does not, so that comes in, like you said, at a post-contract. It does not come in when you are trying to establish your duration.
You have a program that you submit, isn't it? So you have to.
Yeah, so how do you come by the duration of that program? That's what he is asking.
Yeah, but that's the contractor to know how long it's going to take you to build X.
Yeah, so experience comes in, but if you don't have the experience, that's what I'm saying, for some of the work packages, you could always rely on published literature in terms of output.
And also, excuse me, this is the point when you appoint a construction manager. Earlier in the strategic planning, and then when you prepare your brief and feasibility study, you will appoint a construction manager and rely on his experience, his or her experience, to give you an initial project planning or even duration. Yeah. So it's not only you.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Sorry, let's move on. The key thing here is you need to know where to. If you don't have the experience as an organization, right, or within, so if you work within a construction firm, after when you finish your project, you somehow update your database of how long it took you, right? If you're able to finish a concrete work of 100 cubic meter in 10 days, you probably know you are able to estimate how the volume of concrete you're able to do per day. So most construction organizations update this. But if you don't have that, you have ways you could try to talk to the subcontractor to help you come up with some form of duration, or you could also rely on. The thing about relying on subcontractor is you also need to be able to make sure that what information the subcontractor is giving you is quite realistic, right? So which means you also could use some sort of published literature on average output to see whether what the subcontractor is telling you is realistic or not. So let's assume we've done our programming, but then we get onto site, right? To be able to get onto site, you need to be able, you've done your programming, you estimated what's your duration. The next thing, in doing your duration, you need what's called the method statement, because the method statement tells you or informs how you're going to do the work and the resources you need, right? So for instance, if we have concrete, right, somebody could say, one organization could say, I'll buy premix concrete and get it delivered on site, which means there'll be a minimum level of human resource involved. Another organization could say, I'll mix the concrete on site, right? And in that sense, there will be a lot of human resources involved, right? So basically, resource management or resource planning is a process of planning the manpower, financial and logistical resources you need to meet the objectives of the project. Your resource is not only about the human elements you need. You need to be able to plan the sort of funding you need for the project, the manpower requirements, and then what sort of logistics you need. What happens if you don't have a resource plan in place, right? Why, in doing your program, why do you need a resource plan at all? If you don't have a resource plan in place and you assume that you are able to get all your resources, for instance, you assume you can get a crane when you need it, you can get skill treatment when you need it. The time will come and you realize they are not available, which means your project can fall behind schedule. For instance, back in Hong Kong, at one point in time, how many of you know of Macau? Macau, okay, right. So sometime in about 2008, thereabout, Macau started building some large casinos, right? It started building some major casinos, it started doing some major projects. And in Macau, what was very relevant for them was time of completion. They wanted to finish those projects fast because they knew if they were done with their casinos and entertainment centers, they will have what people coming in and they will make their money. So they were not so much concerned about the cost. But in Hong Kong at that time, they were still quite concerned about the cost for delivering their project. So in 2008, a large number of consultants moved to who were originally based in Hong Kong. They moved from Hong Kong to Macau. And then it was quite difficult for client organizations in Hong Kong to be able to get their relevant resources. They were finding it difficult to employ consultants because consultants were being better paid in Macau. We were finding it difficult being able to get skilled tradesmen because those tradesmen have moved to Macau, which was ready to pay them higher. Right. So sometimes when you're doing your project, you need to be able to estimate or have an idea of the resources that will be available over time. If you're not able to do that, you may face difficulties because resources are not always available. And then when that happens, your project will fall behind schedule, which means you basically, if you're a developer, you're likely to lose your profit. And without planning for your resource also, the issue of lead times would affect you. Like we did say, we realized concrete has a lead time of 10 weeks. So if you're planning your project and you don't really plan for when concrete will be delivered onto site, and you think, oh, next week I need concrete, you start talking to them, the supplier, and the supplier will tell you, no, I can't deliver the volume of concrete you need next week. So you always need to do a resource management plan. Right. And construction resources we mentioned can be diverse. It can be components, materials, plants. They are varied. It's not just about a human being. And then even when you have these resources, right, you need to be able to manage these resources. For instance, if you are a project manager on a construction site, you have a number of subcontractors being on the site, a number of suppliers bringing you materials on the site. Sometimes conflicts can arise, or there can be issues on the site. And you as a project manager need to have the skills and expertise by resolving some of these conflicts. Sometimes the issue could be from your office not wanting to give you the resource you need. Maybe because they are using, for instance, if you're a large-scale organization, at any, let's say Balfour Beatty, at any point in time, Balfour Beatty could be having 5 or 6 or 7 large-scale projects, and they will need to determine or decide where they send their core resources to. So you need to be able to know how to make a case within that company if you are on project site A for them to give you the resources. And then also, when it comes to labor, you need to make sure your workers have the right skills, right? It's no use bringing workers on site who have no knowledge about bricklaying. If you probably want to lay brick and they bring you 10 tilers, what use is that? In the same way, if you want to do tiles and they bring you painters, it's of no use. So you need to make sure in doing your resource planning as well, you have the workers with the right skills on the site. So So the key thing is making sure that you have a resource management, you have a resource plan, and the Gantt chart does help in that regard. If you're able to get a Gantt chart right, you can always do your resource plan and aggregation to know when you need a resource and when you wouldn't need them. So when you do your Gantt chart, you have your start and end date. You indicate what the resource type and quantity you need, and in some sense, you also have to indicate a source of each resource. If it's a subcontractor, it's within your own organization. If it's you're outsourcing it, you need to show. And then also whether you need some form of equipment for that particular activity, you need to indicate it as well. Right. And the cost you need for that resource and how it fits into the budget. Who can explain what resource leveling is for us? I mean, what's the idea of resource leveling? Or when you talk about resource leveling, what does it mean? Why do we need to do resource leveling? Why? Do you think resource leveling is important in construction?
Is it with managing cash flow?
Sorry?
To help manage cash flow?
Yeah, to help manage your cash flow. Yeah, if you're able to do your resource leveling. But that's one good reason to do it, but that's not the main reason why we do resource leveling. Why do you think we need to level our resources? Or why do we need? So, any idea of what resource leveling is?
You've explained it.
Sorry?
It's not when you move along your tasks so that you keep a level of employees or materials on site.
Yeah. So it's like it did say. It's when you move your program your program and different activities along the duration, so that you have a constant level of employees or workers on site. So, for instance, let's assume you have maybe your program, right, and you have concrete works occurring in maybe week 1, week 5, week 8, right? What will happen here is that probably you have people or your concrete workers coming to site on week 1, they move off the site and have to come back and watch week 3. And maybe they move off the site again and have to come back and watch week 10. In a way, you are not managing them properly, because sometimes when they go, there's some sort of there's some weeks where they may not have much activity. And then also, you probably may have, so when you do your Gantt chart and you're able to aggregate your resources as well, you could realize that on some days or some weeks, you probably have about 30 workers on the side from different work packages. You have 30 workers on the side. But then within some weeks, you probably have just about 10 or 12 workers on the side, which means you have a sort of peak and then trough, which you don't want. By resource leveling, you try to rearrange your work program so that the resources that get onto the site, your workers and equipment, are somehow constant. So if you aggregate your workers at any point in time, you probably may have it running around 15 to maybe 16, 17. You sort of try to level the resources so that there's more uniformity on the site. You get it? So what you do is to adjust the program to be able to accommodate resources so that you're able to make effective use of them. I'm sure we may do resource leveling in when it comes to cash flow planning, right? We'll do an element of resource leveling in that regard. And I think George will also discuss it with you in lane management as well, right? Or we better. So we'll take some examples of resource leveling when we get into that perspective. There's the issue of human resource management, which we all know about when it comes to programming. And then also we do have softwares, automatic softwares, which the Gantt chart, it's Astapar project is a good one. Microsoft project is also a good software. And then Primavera, it gives you the ability to be able to input resources for each activity. So for every activity you have, each of these softwares allows you to tell them the sort of resources you need and help you in planning as well. Right. We'll talk about acceleration later on, fast tracking. That has to do with trying to get your project up to speed. So let's assume you've been able to do your planning, right? You've been able to get a project started on the construction side, right? You've been able to determine the resources you need, and the resources are on the side during the actual construction, right? How do you determine whether your project is on track? How do you determine whether you are within budget? How do you determine whether you're within schedule, right? Which is a core skill as a project manager you need to have, right? Because at every point in time, as a project manager, the client will ask you, how is my project performing? Is my project on track? Is it within budget? Right? Am I achieving my objective? Which is where we come in here. You do what's called a performance review. You focus on evaluating the performance of the project against budget, and you also want to analyze the project strength and be able to predict the total final cost. Because for the client, the key thing for a client is how much am I spending on my project? If the client assumes, or if you think the project cost will go higher, you need to advise the client. So if the client has to go borrow additional money, the client makes such an arrangement. Because ultimately the client has a finite amount of resources. So being able to predict the final cost is quite important. There are two methods we use here. We'll look at a milestone analysis method and end value analysis method. The milestone analysis method, it's quite a simpler, it's relatively simple. The focus here is you're trying to use milestone. For example, when you are doing your planning, you indicate various milestones. If I'm done with my first floor, that's a key milestone. If I'm done constructing the second floor, that's another milestone. If I'm done, if it may be a program, if I'm done constructing building A, that's one milestone. Or maybe if I'm done with my roofing, that's a milestone. So when you're doing your program, you have what key milestone. And at each of these milestones, right, what you go and do in there is to assess, okay, I said at this key milestone, I'll finish this milestone maybe in month 8. At the time I get to that milestone, I'll probably spend maybe £100,000 or £200,000. So what you go do in there is you go in there at the time you are finishing up the milestone and assess whether what you plan is what you achieve. Right. To be able to know whether your project is on schedule or above schedule. So it's less sophisticated because you don't really do much. It's just a simple exercise. How much have I spent at this milestone? Is it per the budget? Yes or no? And that's it. Right. So to be able to do this method, you need to write up when you are doing your program plan. You need to be able to choose and name which sort of milestone you want to focus on, right, at the very beginning. So that's more like your baseline. You establish your milestone at the very beginning, and you also establish the budget at those milestones. Right. So for instance, if we take a look at this project, right, the key milestones are what project milestone 1 is what the project starts authorized, where the plan is that the project should be authorizing week 0. But in actual fact, the project was authorized in week 6. Right. And you have your cumulative cost. So at project authorization, you do not expect the budgeted cost is 0, and the actual cost is 0. So that's more like trying to perform a milestone analysis. So here, right at the very beginning, the project milestones have been established. A design approval is another milestone. when drawings are issued, it's another milestone. All equipment, so you have different milestones here. So when the project is ongoing, right? So you expect that, for instance, milestone 9, which is roof on building, which is when the roof should be on. The plan is that you want to do it by week 36. And then the cumulative budget for that should be what, £630, right? So what happens is that if you look at activity number 4, which is foundation completed, the planned date was what? It should have been started in week 20, but it was started in what, week 22. So which means in this case, we somehow exceeded the planned week. And then when you look at the budget was supposed to have been £100, and then the actual spent on at that point was also what, £100. Right. So you basically, what you're trying to do is to look at the various elements, the key milestone, and then compare what you spend versus what you plan. But then this doesn't give you a good picture. So what you do is to be able to sketch it as a graph. Right. So when you sketch it as a graph, you have, this is your budget, the dotted line, and this is what the actual. If you look over here, you may probably think the actual is below the budget, but that's not wholly true. It's true in some cases, right? If we take week 2, right, the actual week 2 was finished earlier. The actual for week 2, which was designed after, the plan was to finish it on 12, and then what came out 14, right? So the budget for week 2, right, we estimated that it would cost us for £25, which is here. But then we actually did spend lower, so in that sense, it's quite okay. But when you take week 7, what's the budget? The budget for week 7 was supposed to have been what? £28, which is somewhere here. But at the moment, for week 7, we're spending what? £30. Right. And even that, when it comes to the time for delivery, we've also what exceeded the time of delivery. So you always need to look at the item and when it's delivered to be able to compare. But then the thing about the milestone approach is that it only tells you after something has happened. So you get to site or you get onto the project and you realize, I mean, I've exceeded my target, my program is not going according to schedule, what next? That's all it tells you. It does not tell you what you need to do. You only get to know after the event has happened, after the damage has happened. How useful is such an information? I mean, as a client, all information you have is that you only get to know after the damage has already been caused, because they are only telling you something that's happening. It doesn't really help you predict or tell you whether at the end of the day or what measures have been taken to address such an issue. But then a number of people use this approach because it's very simple. It's always easy to be able to calculate it based on the milestone approach. So that's where we come in with what's called the end value analysis. Because the milestone approach doesn't help us forecast or predict the future cost. And it only tells us after the damage has been caused. You as the client or you as the project manager don't only want that. You want to be able to know, am I getting value for money for what we are doing? Is it likely I'll be able to, what's my predicted cost? What's the predicted time for construction? What can I do to be able to recover? You want to do that. So the end value analysis is a standard technique that's used to assess project progress by comparing the amount and cost of work that was planned to have been done by a particular stage with the amount that has actually been done and what it actually cost. So here, it gives you a good idea in terms of the value, right? Am I getting the actual value, not just, and how am I going to take it to completion? So So there are three main things the end value analysis enables us to do. Similar to, let's say, the milestone analysis, right? It helps us to be able to measure a project's progress at any time t. So when you get onto a project site, we know at time t, this is where we are, this is what was planned, this is where we spent, that sort of stuff. And then the other thing is it also allows us to be able to work based on what we've done in the past, or based on where we are now. It helps us to forecast the completion date. It's almost like saying that maybe if you're running at a rate of, if you're supposed to cover maybe a distance of 100 kilometers, right? And you're running at a rate of maybe 10 kilometers per hour you run at 10 kilometers per hour for maybe 10 hours for, let's say, 50 kilometers of the distance. Then how we are able to predict how long it will take you to complete the 100 kilometers. Right? So you sort of trying to estimate the average time it's taking you to get to that point, see you are doing your progress. And based on that, you want to forecast how long it will take you to get to completion. And it's similar to the cost as well. So at any time, you are trying to see, okay, if I compare my plan to my actual, how am I performing? What's my average performance? Am I performing well or not? Okay, based on my average performance, how would I get to the end? Or what's my final cost of completion looking at? And also helps us provide what we call a schedule and budget variance along the way to know how far you are by your prediction. So we say it's an end value approach because value here or the work here is end, right? Because you actually try to really assess it against different parameters. You don't just say that this is where you are. You are kind of comparing, okay, this is where we are supposed to be. How are we performing per what we said we would do? And what's the sort of variance in there, right? I might, let's say, 30% of my mark, 50% of my mark. How do I get to the end? And we also need to produce what's called a cost performance index. So we'll come to how we need to calculate that, right? But then basically, if you're doing the calculation and your cost performance index, it's 1. If let's say you say your budgeted cost at time t, it's supposed to be, let's say, £100,000. And at the time you came onto site, when you measured it, your actual cost is what? £100,000. Your budget over your actual cost is what? 1. So which means you are performing according to plan. But if it's any value less than 1, it means your project is not performing well. You're actually behind schedule, behind in terms of when it comes to cost. So you want to be able to assess your cost performance index. How am I performing per what I planned, right? Which is the cost performance index. But to be able to do your end value analysis properly, right, which is, the value you want to assess, you need to have you need to have measurable components. You need to know what you are going to measure, right? So at any time, that helps you. The Gantt chart is able to help you in that regard. If you have your Gantt chart, because for every item on your Gantt chart, you're most likely to have what price it. You know what the price is. You know when it's supposed to be done. So you have what a measurable component which you go on to. And then you also need to know, based on your work program, you know the scope of work that needs to be accomplished by any time t. And then you get to know the total cost as well to be able to do that work. And definitely you know your time frame for work completion. So there are some key elements we need to know here. The planned value is the value of what you have been spent as budgeted, right? So at any time, at the time you are doing your end value analysis, what did you budget for to have been spent at that point t? When it comes to, let's say, For instance, if you have concrete running over 10 weeks, right, and your concrete, the total cost of your concrete, it may be 100,000 pounds over 10 weeks. At the 8th week, I mean, assuming everything runs uniformly, at the 8th week, your cost of concrete to have actually been spent should be worth about 80,000. Because if you divide 100,000 by 10 weeks, that's about 10,000 per week. So going by that, so you basically, the planned value of work to have been spent as budgeted. And then the actual cost is the total cost you've incurred so far. And it depends on where you are. If you are a contractor, and you are doing your end value, your actual cost incurred so far will be what? A combination of material, labor, and plant. Or if you are using a subcontractor, how much you pay to what? That subcontractor, if you're a contractor organization. If you're a client organization, right, the actual cost at that point T will be how much you pay to contractors up to that point in time. You get it? So it all depends on which side of the actor you are on. If the contractor is submitting, the contractor is submitting a cost or maybe a certificate to the client, the contractor will definitely add his profit element, right? So the cost incurred, if the contractor does the work for maybe, let's say concrete, if the contractor does concrete for 30,000 pounds, that may be the direct cost incurred, but the contractor may bill the client 40,000 because of what his profits and overhead, which would have been agreed earlier on. So actual cost for the same component of work does vary depending on which perspective you are looking at it from. So when it comes to value, when it comes to calculating the end value, there are some key elements here which are cost variance and then the schedule variance. To be able to estimate our end value, there are some key elements or key components we need in here. The key element, you need to know the actual cost of work you've performed up to any point in time, right? Which as quantity surveyors, for those of you who are quantity surveyors, it's easy for you to establish or determine, right? It could be, if you have your bills of quantities, you basically go onto site, measure, and you will use the rate to be able to get a total quantity. If you do not have a bill of quantity and you have various work packages that were priced, you could estimate the percentage of work that has been completed and come up with what the actual cost of work performed. And you also know how much you pay your contractor. And then the budgeted, so at any time T, when you want to assess your end value analysis, you look at the actual cost of work performed, the budgeted cost of work performed. So at that point in time, what was your budgeted or what did you budget for that particular work, right? And then also at that point T, we have what's called a budgeted cost of work schedule at the date of measurement. So if you go onto the project side, you have what's your program of work. At week 10, what activities are supposed to have been completed by that date per your plan or budget, right? Which tells you the budgeted schedule of work completed. And then also you have what your CPI, which is the CPI is just a cost performance index. It indicates the measure of success in achieving the budget. And we did say CPI of 1, it means that your budgeted cost is as per what your actual cost. Because if budget is equal to your cost, you get 1. But if it's less than 1, it means you are you are not performing well from a cost perspective. And then we have what's called, you also need, it's not just about the cost, but you also want to determine from a schedule perspective whether you are on track or what failing at all. That's why we come in with the schedule performance index. And your cost performance index, it's basically your budgeted cost of work. How much you budgeted over the actual cost of work. So if, for instance, you budgeted to do a work for maybe 10,000 and you spent about 8,000 on that work, your CPI will be more than 1 because your actual cost of doing that work is lower than what your budgeted cost.
So you want a situation.
You want a situation where your CPI, which is the when you budgeted for a particular work package, you want it to be what? You want your budget to always be greater than the actual cost for a particular work item. You don't want to exceed your budget. So most times you try to aim for a CPI of 1 or above. If the CPI is less than 1, it means you start having issue. And the same for the XPI, right, which is the budgeted cost of work performed over the budgeted cost of what the work schedule at that point in time. There are a number of challenges when it comes to performing end value. I mean, it's quite difficult to perform. It's quite difficult to be able to perform our end value analysis, right? Because what happens is, to be able to do that, you always need to, it's something you need to do on a regular basis. Unlike the milestone where you probably only go in when a milestone is achieved, here with the end value, it needs to be something that's regular, which means you consistently need to go onto the site and quantify and measure it. But sometimes, from a resource perspective, it's difficult because you probably may not have the resources to be able to go onto site to do that every time. And then you also need to spend a lot of time. Imagine you have a large-scale project, and every point in time, you always have to go onto site to be able to take measurement. Of course, it depends on the type of contract strategy you are also using. If you go by a remeasurable contract, that means you need to remeasure everywhere. But if you go by, let's say, a fixed, sorry, the screen is gone off here. I don't know why. Yeah. So it makes it difficult to be able to perform end value on a continuous basis because you always have to update and follow up on site. Let's assume we have a project, right? Let's assume we have this project, right? What we have here is we have various activities. So we have activity activity A, B. We have activity A, has a duration of 2 days. The budgeted cost was supposed to be £300 was supposed to be £300 per day. So which means the total cost is 600. So for all the various activities, these are the budgeted costs, and then this is the total cost it takes us to. And then we go on to site on the 7th day. We go on to site on the 7th. We go on to site on the 7th day. So, maybe you are a project manager, right? This is what you budgeted initially. You've been asked to go on to site on the 7th day to measure progress. And at the 7th day, you realize that activity A is 100% complete. And this is the actual cost. You incur an actual cost of what, £600. Activity B, it's also what, 100% complete, and you incur what, a cost of £1,400. Activity C, it's 3% complete, and this is how much cost you've incurred so far. Activity D is 50% complete, and you've incurred a cost of what, £200. And activity E, it's yet to start, and so that means you've not incurred any cost. The next thing here will be at what, being able to establish our end variance to determine whether we are on schedule and within budget. So the first thing we have to do here is to, it's that based on this plan activities, right, we draw, a Gantt chart, right. Activity A, which is the starting activity, has no predecessor. Right. And it's supposed to take us, what, 2 days. So that's activity A taking us 2 days. And B has its predecessor as A. And that takes us, what, 3 days. So it takes us 3 days. Activity C has its predecessor as B. So let's see that the predecessor is supposed to take another 3 days. And activity D, so D also has its predecessor as B. And it takes, what, 2 days. And the last activity is, what, E, which activity E has a duration of, what, 3 days, and predecessor as D. So that's this activity, right? But then our actual progress of work is taken at, what, week 7, right, which is where week 7 ends, right? But then we know A, it's 100% complete. B is also, what, 100% complete, right? And then C is, what, 33% complete, or 1/3 complete, which is here, right? About 1/3 true. And then D is 50% what, complete. Because D happens over, what, 2 days. 50% means 50% of 2 days is, what, 1 day. If C is supposed to occur over 3 days, and 33% of 3 days is, what, 1 day. Right. So that's where we have, of course, E is here to start at all. Right. So the next step, is that we know, so to be able to calculate our end variance, right, end value, to be able to know whether our project is proceeding as planned or not, what we'll then do is that we need to be able to, we know our actual, we put up a table, we know our actual cost of work performed, right, which is the cost incurred here, right. ACWP means actual, how much did we spend on the work package or work activity, right? So for A, we spend £600. For B, we spend, what, 1,400. For C, 500. D, 200. And E, nothing at all. The next thing, okay, this is the actual cost, but how much did we budget to spend at week 7? At week 7, if you are to look over here, at week 7, what's supposed to have been the budgeted fee or the budgeted figure? So the very first activity, for activity A, right, what was the budget as of week 7? Activity A should have been completed by week 7, right? This is activity A should have been completed by week 7. So which means the budgeted cost at that point in time means that we need to have spent £600. It should be, week 7, it should be 100% complete. And activity B, as of week 7, should also be what? 100% complete. we're rather working on the schedule. We're working on the cost. Sorry. So at week 7, activity A should have been what? We should have spent £600 as our week 7. That's per the budget. Similarly for activity B, as our week 7, we should have the budgeted cost is what? £1,200 because that's what we budgeted for. And it should also have been what? 100% complete. When we take activity C, right? Activity C, as our week 7 for activity C, it's supposed to be what? Activity C should have been over 3 days, right? Which means for every day of activity C, if we divide 1,002 by the 3 days, which means each day is what? £400. If an activity is supposed to take 3 days, right? And the total cost of doing the activity is £1,200, right? What will be the rates per day? Sorry? If you have an activity supposed to occur over 3 days, right? 400, yeah. If the activity is supposed to occur over 3 days and the total cost of the work is 1,002, it means for each day it will be what? 1,002 over 3, which is 400, right? So as of day 7, we are supposed to have spent what? £800. Fine, but do you mind if I take a few more, maybe about 10 minutes to finish up?
Yes.
Sorry?
Take your time.
Is it okay if I take about 10 minutes to finish up? So yeah, what about when it comes to activity D, right? When it comes to activity D, what would it be? We're supposed to have been 100% done by what? Week 7, right? Let me just run through. When it comes to activity B, we're supposed to have been what? 100% by week 7, right?